My name is Vinny Sharma. I'm the managing director with Ernst Young in our tech consulting group. Mostly work in cloud engineering and cloud native development, IoT, and agile delivery space. Been with our firm for a little more than 2 years now. Prior alum from Deloitte. Worked there as well for about 4+ years. As most of you are already aware of what Ernst Young do, but just a quick recap. Ernst Young wear many hats in the market. We are in tax, we are in auditing, we are in assurance, we are in strategy. I am aligned to our tech consulting side of the firm, where we help most of the Fortune 1000 companies in their transformation, in their cloud journey, in their optimizing their delivery model and whatnot. Big ERP CRM transitions, Oracle transitions, and everything end to end. So we are in the space where we have big presence with our merger and acquisition, small VC firm companies, and bigger large scale organization as well. So EY is all across, injected in all crazy and established domains in the industries.
Awesome. Vinny, thanks for being on. I'm excited to have you on to talk about delivery frameworks. I know you got a firsthand view of some of the best practices and pre-post delivery adoption, all that type of stuff. So I'm excited to have you on. I guess let's start off at the top and let's kind of talk about delivery and especially let's say from the consulting perspective. Obviously, you're engaged to find a solution to a problem that somebody has. And that obviously means you have to be a really good listener, right? I feel like it's almost like you have to be a really good doctor, good diagnosis, be able to listen and really understand what the root cause is. Otherwise, you could be easily working on the wrong thing. When you go into a project and you're putting that hat on of, trying to be that, ear and listening, what are you trying to pick up on? What are you listening for to be able to help diagnose that right solution that might be needed?
See, in consulting, the best thing that I like about my job, which covers the aspect that you just asked me as well, there are two sides of any conversation: what a person is saying and what a person means. And in consulting, that's what I love about my job the most. Most of the times when we talk about our clients, irrespective in insurance, telecom, healthcare, whatever, talking about the key problem areas sometimes get very tunnel vision. Like, this is what in front of me. I'm struggling with this. I have no idea how my delivery team is working. I have all the vendors in the world, Infosys, Tatas, HCLs of the world. I don't know how to manage all of them, internally my IT team. But at the same time, how this will gonna play in coming 3 years or 5 years when AI ML is coming in, robotics is coming in, all the sort of automation is coming in. So that's where I love my job, because I get to see what I can fix as a low-hanging fruit for our clients, listen to them, but at the same time, be their strategic advisor to tell them what's coming. So most of the times that helps, and that's the part I love most about my job.
And I guess that's a tricky thing, right? So, somebody has a challenge. You're putting on that that hat on. I want to see what's the long-term solution, how I can help you. But obviously, most people have some short-term pains as well. And you have to kind of juggle the delivery of, on that short-term horizon, keeping the long-term, not, wanting to throw away too much or building short-term. I mean, it's a juggle. And I guess there's a trade-off there of making sure, you're effectively delivering, kind of what you mentioned, that short-term win, the long-term vision. When you're looking at that and you're trying to obviously, paint the art of the possible, paint the long-term vision of what you're hoping to do, but yet meet those short-term needs, how do you start breaking up that roadmap for, let's say, it doesn't matter the industry, how do you start breaking up that roadmap to make sure you're supporting it?
Usually the path for a larger scale transformation or some sort of discussion starts with a quick discovery. Because the point, what happens is that the large scale or smaller scale clients that we have, depending upon their operations and business vertical and whatnot, helping them and starting them with the discovery phase help us to build that initial trust so that we get to know what their key problems are. Whether it is visibility, whether it is lack of automation, whether it is, okay, my team cannot do it, it takes forever for a single release. Like, I'm just giving some hypothetical scenarios. through that discovery, we try to inject ourselves through meetings or whiteboard sessions or workshops all across the organization. And let me elaborate on that. What I mean by that is working with core IT, product engineering group, ops team, security team, QA team, then business. Because believe it or not, these days, even business has become more and more technical based on the products that are coming into the market. Even the inception of a requirement that is about to hit production in the next 2 months need a lot of assessment from product engineering perspective, and ROI needs to be associated now before any money can be put in. So that's the reason that some sort of quick discovery help us to understand the landscape, understand the ecosystem more, and then help us in defining more like a 30, 60, 90-day plan. So that's how I personally approach with our clients.
And I guess as you mentioned, ROI has to be established. Nothing's going to hit the roadmap unless it's there. What do you do, like, as you're kind of working with the client and you're in the delivery process, and you're seeing new ideas, they have thoughts, they're now seeing that there's more that they can deliver because you're giving them some more tools, some more capabilities, and all of a sudden you have to temper expectations of, let us finish this before we start the other. How do you have some of those conversations of making sure allow that scope to creep before delivery, and then obviously having that roadmap reflect what they're hoping to see?
Yeah, funny you said that because I'm smiling right now. So there is a saying in consulting that when you talk to the client for the first time, the requirement starts from, Vinny, I want to rub my laptop 3 times and a genie should come out. That's where the requirement starts. And then we drill it down to more tangible and more aligned to the business. That's where the whole discussion around discovery, having the discussion, understanding the prospect, talking to multiple key stakeholders all across helps us. So when we talk about the requirements, the way we shape up that discussion is how it is aligned to either efficiency or your revenue gain or much larger customer base, like assigning those key value pairing sort of thing that help us to basically check the feasibility. Because what happens is, and I quite often hear this in the market when I go with our team and when our cloud practice in general go as well. A tech firm is doing like 10 deployments a day, or another upcoming OTT platform is doing like 5 deployments a day. The question that I ask is, do you need 5 deployments a day? So that's the transition you need to make sure that you can make them understand both sides. One, the drawbacks or your current challenges are there, but at the same time, how much you need. Do you need that much? Your business doesn't need that much. So finding that balance helps them to visualize and become more realistic so that they can see quick improvement in quick segments of time.
Absolutely. It's funny when I have ML leaders and AI leaders on, it's always the business asking for an ML solution just because it's what they hear. Yes. And the expectation is, sure, but we may not even need it. It's going to be shorter and it's going to be less costly. Let's look at solutions. So it's interesting that you mentioned the deployment. And I guess when you're looking at clients and different projects that you're part of, sometimes it seems like there is a capabilities mismatch. They want to develop something, they want to get there, and you have to help potentially, paint the landscape of what's possible. But also, you're going to leave at one point. Like eventually, they have to be able to take a hold of this project and handle something after you go. And obviously, they need to be ready for that.
Yeah, that's what we call it, pass the baton. So what we do in these transformation cases as well, because that's why I really like our firm and how we make connections and how we act as a strategic partner for our clients. To expand on that, it's never that we are going to do these 3 steps and we'll be out the door. Our transformation approach always and without failure consists of a tiered approach of transition. How and when the transition is needed, how business transition will going to happen, how IT transition will going to happen, how product transition will going to happen, and how simply operating model or agile or safe or whatever framework you want to refer to will going to happen. It is well defined within the timeframes and well defined within the reach and dependency in terms of how many stakeholders you need or how many team members you need from the client side as well. Because otherwise, you can be there as long as possible, but till the time you do not provide that visibility that once we are gone, you need 10 DevOps engineers, you need 3 security specialists, you need 5 Scrum Masters. There is no point in doing the work because that will be gone within 3 months. So that's where a tiered approach of transition, not just, okay, we'll provide you a bunch of PowerPoint agile training slides that this is what Scrum Master do, these are agile ceremonies, and be done with it. That doesn't help. Everyone used to sit in those training exercises and we all know how much we retain. So a tiered approach helps us to connect with our client better and transition on all levels. And on the flip side of it is it helps us to keep that relationship on with all key stakeholders further as well as their trusted partner.
Yeah, it's interesting when I was listening to you talk about the tier transition. You're gonna laugh, but I all of a sudden started thinking about when our daughter was born and we brought her home 9-10 years ago. We had one night overnight, and they gave you some training, and it was like the next day you're at home, and you get home and you're like,
now what?
There's nobody here, and as you're talking about that, I'm like, oh geez, how great! There's a tier transition from newborn to the first night out. And it's interesting because, when you're talking about that tier transition, I think a lot of times when, people are looking to adopt new technologies or create new capabilities, there is a skill set or cultural component that has to be brought in. You mentioned DevOps, obviously, but if you're going to implement DevOps, is it 5 times a day? Is it one release a day? There needs to be that capability, but also cultural understanding. Hey, we're going to do some things differently. We're going to break some things, but we're going to fix them. And you got to start following the repetition to actually ingrain it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes.
So I guess when you're looking at, some of the projects that in terms of delivery, we've been talking about some of the, opportunities to go in and help and consult. And obviously delivery issues do pop up. There are probably some patterns of key delivery issues and that you potentially have dealt with in the past. What are some of those, especially large scale projects, transformations you deal with? What are some common delivery issues you've dealt with?
Okay, let me put it this way. So and I'm strictly talking about, as per your question, more large-scale transformation. It's like a multinational firm going through with major transformation end-to-end, thousands of engineers and whatnot, and a huge portfolio. With that, I think the biggest, not just the transition, but the biggest struggle that we see in creating the visibility for leadership of our client is they're working with every possible vendor on the face of the earth. They have every possible tool that is available under the sun. Now, what happens there is that, and so often that happened to me as well, that 6 months down the line, CTO comes to me that, Vinny, we paid $5 million. Where's the money back? How am I getting this visibility? So I think our focus, even before we start doing work or assessing the challenge and whatnot, the moment we kickstart anything, we start working towards creating a value framework. What that means is a combination of tools available in the market that can be used as creating a significant dashboards so that the painful points does not rely on emails or team communication or something else, where a classic scenario of he said, she said comes into the picture. When you have an effective, and gladly, if you see in the last 7 to 10 years, technology have evolved so much that half of the things we have top of the shelf product available that helps our client and help us to create that ecosystem and create that visibility. The biggest challenge that I see is exactly the same. All of the vendors are working on, everybody claims that they are the best in the market. We are the most effective people. We are the most efficient ecosystem. But at the same time, client is still paying about $1 billion in their IT budget. So how a progressed path can be laid out in front of the client that, okay, this year you are paying $1 billion. Next year, we'll make sure that you pay $800 million. How we will progress towards that path to identify these challenges where cross-vendor visibility can be created. That helps a lot to identify and create that accountability in terms of create that efficiency model. So we leverage tools, not just verbal confirmation or emails, tools to get injected in the day-to-day delivery that help us create that visibility. That's one. Second is, as I said, that an effective training model, because capability is again something where most of the times we see that, okay, a Python engineer will not be able to understand agile ceremonies on day one. There is nothing wrong with the engineer, but we need to make sure that we provide him or her that helping hand to make sure that they understand the expectations, understand the day-to-day job in this new delivery model. So that's the second thing we focus on, and that's the second challenge we have faced that to focus on, that creating that not just training, but more like a peer review training, where Scrum Masters can understand and then they do internal so that we can have that progressive path for our team members. And how we recognize that? The ecosystem with the tools that we have created. Now, velocity hours are improving with sprint by sprint. People are using ticketing system more and more to have their workflow automated. The moment they check in something, the automated build get triggered. So these kind of metrics and dashboard help us to create that efficiency model or create that visibility first so that an efficiency model can be created.
I was actually going to ask you a question because I'm curious from your point of view. In the last, couple of months, we hear a lot about AI. Everything is ChatGPT.
Oh, yes, ChatGPT.
It's everything. It's going to solve every problem. It's going to remedy every issue we have. I guess when your job as a consulting firm, an expert, you start probably fielding these type of questions because people hear about it and they're like, "Hey, can it help my business?" How much of that comes through, especially when you get so much noise, something like this, AI, as we've seen in the last couple of months? How does that affect the conversations you start having with your customers?
I think I should be able to answer this question maybe more better way next year. And let me tell you why. It is still evolving. It is still in a very, very initial phase. It is where we are, where most of the clients ask, Vinny, what do you think about ChatGPT? They have heard a blog, they read something in here, they saw it in the news that, okay, crossed 100 million users in less than 2 months. Wow. And that's it. But it is still evolving. Not that ChatGPT is not efficient enough. Of course it is. We internally are working towards that as well. But I think there are a lot of still unanswered questions. There are a lot of still comfort level that clients or firms yet to form. And it is trying to find that way, create that knowledge base that can help them to ask more informed question. Right now, it is, what do you think about ChatGPT? That's a very broad question. So that's where I think in next 6 to 9 months, as a firm, as even we are evolving day-to-day basis, and we are also understanding the impact, I think we should be capable to answer this question, at least to you, in coming time. Having said that, I think the major industry, depending upon which domain they are in, like insurance or finance or oil and gas, slightly conservative in terms of acceptance. It takes some time, not just because they don't want to do it. It's more of they're still on mainframes, or they are still legacy systems are so much embedded in their ecosystem that they are just cautious. Nothing more, nothing less. But tech firms or mid-scale companies whose appetite for risk or whose appetite for acceptance new thing is slightly higher than any other firm, my answer changes. So if I'm talking to a mid-scale e-commerce big startup, how it can help, then I can tell them that, okay, it can help you in creating much more stronger customer base, but at the same time, how much rely on the data that you're being provided, I will put some checks on that. So that will going to be my answer. If a big finance giant CTO asks me that question, I would say, I think we are in the prem stage. Let's wait for 3 months and talk again.
That's fair. And it actually kind of made me think about, I guess, where you're at in your tech maturity phase. I mean, you mentioned some industries that do rely on mainframes because it works. I mean, there's no reason to change. And I guess as humans, a lot of times we, not FOMO, but we feel like we might be missing out. Like, the grass is greener, and it's like, well, what's working sometimes is the right decision. I guess that's maybe more of, what's interesting for me is, seeing people think, that's going to be a, future silver bullet. And obviously, like you said, we're very early. Like, I mean, who knows how the adoptions go, what skill, what type of skills you need to even implement this effectively. I think it's so early, as you mentioned. We'll have to have you back in a year and kind of see if you see it played out differently.
Yes, exactly. So I think right now we are in the early stages. I'm not saying it is not a value add, but I'm not saying it is a miracle worker as well. We are in the initial stage. Let's wait and watch and see how it works out.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, when it comes to, and I think some of what you mentioned is, tech maturity, tech culture, existing capabilities, as you kind of see those different, areas of the triangle or whatever object we're talking about, how many points it is. But when you start seeing those align, and as you're looking at a customer and you're trying to advise, do you have to kind of wait based on the industry they're in, knowing the competition, knowing kind of where other people are at, just so that no one wants to put something in place that's maybe too early for that company? You don't want to be lagging too far behind. You obviously want to push your tech capabilities as much as you can. It seems like a very delicate balance.
It is, but at the same time, believe it or not, to our surprise, actually, clients are evolving very fast. What I meant by that is that knowledge of their customer base through evolving technology, knowledge of their ecosystem, knowledge of their competition, those kind of topics and the information related to those topics is readily available few clicks away. And that is the reason that the decisions these days are much more informed. Sometimes 10 years back, 15 years back, consulting firms were helping the clients with having experience of 100 more clients in the same industry, collating that experience and still helping the current client with the best informed decision without violating any of the existing contracts or trust that they have with other clients. But now ample amount of information is there. So to keep us relevant, the work and the focus is more on what is your vision. And then based on our industry knowledge, we can guide you how much that vision is feasible, how much that vision will help you to achieve the larger either revenue goal or customer base or whatever it is, whether it is B2B, B2C, or whatnot. So our industry experience comes handy to help them try the feasibility of their vision. Does that make sense to you?
It does, actually. No, I think that's a great way of viewing it, and the evolution of consulting and where consulting has kind of evolved to as well is very interesting. And I think you actually summarized that very well. Vinny, I love talking to you. I think I could talk to you all day, but I know I'm sure you got to get back to your day job. And before I let you go, I do like asking a few questions. Just to have the audience get to know you a little bit better as well. I'm going to throw a few of those at you. So obviously in your role, you've got to have a broad view. And I guess, how do you keep up with technology? I mean, there's so much evolving, so much changing. What are some of the things you do to stay up to date?
I think I would say I'm few of the fortunate ones. What I mean by that is that I've been fortunate enough to be with consulting with big fours of the industry from last 5+ years, 6+ years. But at the same time, like 2/3 of my professional life is in mid-scale startups, building products in DevSecOps space, managing dating apps all across. So that's the reason that I'm still very much geek at heart. So what I meant by that is I try to keep my certifications on. I still learn a lot. Try to read a book at least one book a week to make sure that at least I know what's going on. Second thing is if somebody sees my personal laptop that I have pretty much everything installed on that thing. So I have my own cloud environment set up. I have my own mobile environment simulation set up, which I create my own apps. So I keep myself quite busy. And as I told you in the beginning, when we started this recording, that I'm not a morning person. So I am up pretty much till 2:30, 3 a.m. in the morning. And that's the only habit of my mind that my wife has not been able to change. So yeah, I like to keep it that way. And I love to read.
Awesome. When it comes to productivity, everyone has their own little thing to help them stay as productive as they can be. What's your go-to? What's some of your productivity hacks that help you stay focused?
Breathing. Believe it or not, in last 3 years, actually more of last 2+ years, I got hit by COVID pretty bad, and I took a break for about like 4+ months. Control on your breathing helps me focus a lot, because when you start your day job, you have like 100+ emails, you have 20+ meetings, out of which you are double booked like 3 times a day. I think reading personally anything new about technology, or especially in the cloud space, now that AI ML is progressing very fast, is one thing. Second is at least 5 to 10 minutes of every day, I like to focus on my breathing and do nothing. And that helps me a lot.
Very good. I like that one. The last question for you is around hobbies. I think I might have a sense of what you do with your free time, but I'm going to ask you anyways. And I asked because I realized that a lot of people that I knew don't have hobbies. And I actually had to figure out what my hobby was, what I'd like to do when I'm not working or with family, which was interesting. But what's your hobby? What do you like to do if it's not technology? I'm taking that one away just because
in general, I read a lot. Having said that, I have a 14-year-old daughter in my house. So these days, my new hobby is watching musicals. A Star is Born, or watching Hamilton, where I couldn't make any sense out of it, but my daughter loves it, and she makes sure that I watch it. And anything that is entire 3 hours being weaved in just form of songs was not pretty much my taste in the beginning, but I think somehow I've started liking it a little bit. So yes, that's watching anything with my daughter is something that I've developed in the last few years a lot. And she's 14 now, and within 4 years she'll be in college. So I want to use that time as much as possible.
Awesome, man. That's a great hobby. I was going to say that's my 9-year-old. I typically have the same thing, because I feel like I start gravitating towards what she's interested in, and that becomes
9 years. You are still in the stage of Zootopia or Moana, actually.
There you go. Awesome, Vinny, man. I appreciate you being on. Thanks for sharing your time. It's been great talking to you.
No, thanks, Amir. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.